guys, how are you? Well, it's the week of Thanksgiving, and actually you guys are going to be here in just a few days, so I am so excited to have all of us together again. I'm thankful that you're able to be here with us and that you guys are all healthy and happy and doing so well. I'm so very proud of you, and obviously Dad is too. So Thanksgiving is a great holiday to spend together, and I'm just so excited to see you guys in a couple of days. But we've got another episode of For the Boys to record, and I'm really excited about this one because when I was going through some of the things back in the back closet, as you know, and that's one of my goals for this year and into next summer, is to go through everything and to either put it in a For the Boys or to do some sort of recording of it, documentation of it, so that I know where things are and what things are. But right now I'm going to be talking about this little picture, and obviously you can't see it on the camera right now, but I will show you a close-up shot to it. But it's of an ancestor of yours that is a veteran. And we've talked about your grandpa, your great-grandpa, Howard Martin in the World War II. And you have a lot of other ancestors that are veterans as well. Your great-uncle John Cook was in Vietnam. Your grandfather Martin, Gary Martin, was in the Air Force Reserves. We have a lot of military veterans, but this one is unique in that we are going to be talking about a Civil War veteran named Peter Staats. And in fact, we have a picture of Peter Staats. I believe it's from 1861, just when he was about ready to go into the Civil War, and he actually died about a year later. So it's a small picture. It's difficult to see, so I'm going to have to focus in on it. But I wanted to talk about this Civil War ancestor of yours because the artifact that we have is this amazing picture. There's writing on the back of it, and pinned to it with an old safety pin is a ring that supposedly he carved during the Civil War. And so let me go ahead and read what's in the back. So Uncle Peter Staats. So my guess is that from the uncle part of it, it is going to be, on the Staats side, which is the Cook side. So my grandfather, Harold Cook's mother was a Staats, so Eva Staats, the one that has all of the diaries and everything. So it's her side of the family, and I think it might be her great uncle. So she might be talking about her father's uncle, but I'll get to that in a little bit when we get to the family tree. But it says Uncle Peter Staats went in Army 1861, April 1862, died. And then it says this ring is made out of laurel wood, made while in the Army. So we have actually two really amazing artifacts here that have been kept together for 160 years. That's is just really incredible. So I'm looking forward to telling you more about this picture, more about the life of Peter Staats, and try to find out information about his service in the Civil War. And maybe we can take apart this picture a little bit because the frame is really of tin. I'm going to be very careful when I do that though, because I don't want to ruin this, but I think it's possible to take it apart and to look a little bit more closely. So let's do that right now. Here's the picture that we're talking about. You can see from my hand, it is not very big at all. And the picture itself, I know that there are some shadows, but you can see the portrait of Peter Staats in here. Now, I'm not exactly sure what kind of photograph this is, if it's a tintype or if it's another kind of photograph. Maybe when we take it apart, we can figure that out. But it is very small. In fact, we can take some measurements of it. And here is this. So, up and down, it is, looks like about 3¼ inches. And along the bottom here, it looks like, about 3 inches. Now the frame itself is of a tin. It's very flimsy is not quite the word, but it's bendable for sure. On the back, like I told you, that there's writing on it. Uncle Peter Staats went in Army 1861, April 1862 died. This ring was made out of laurel wood, made while in the Army. And again, you can see that the frame itself can be pried up, and that this is a piece of paper, so I don't know what's between the picture and that piece of paper. So again, I'm going to take it apart here in just a second, delicately. I don't want to ruin anything, but I would like to see what kind of portrait it is. Maybe have to do a little bit of research. At the same time, taking a look at this ring, it's flat on the top. I don't think that there's anything engraved in it. And then, maybe I'll take it off and see which finger this might fit on me. But yeah, that's pretty incredible. It's out of one piece of wood. And it must have been something that he did while he was in the Army, when he had a little bit of free time, if he had free time. So that's the dimensions of the picture. And I'm going to need 2 hands to take this apart, so I'm going to put the camera into the tripod now. All right, Dad hung the Murphy lamp over this table so we have a little bit more light, since it's getting dark so early these days. But the first thing that I want to do is take the ring off, and I will put it back. But I'm going to take the ring off just to see about how big it might be. Now, I think on my ring fingers, I wear about an 8 ring, and it is a little bit too big on there. So it's better on my middle finger here, but still easily slides off. So still, for a man, those are not big fingers at all. But how beautiful is that? Laurel wood. I don't know where laurel trees are. Again, something to research. But here we are with the picture. And what I am really interested in is what kind of picture this is. Now, the front piece of glass is really dirty. And my guess is that whatever kind of picture it is might be stuck to the glass. I've seen that before. But I'm just going to see what I can do here by peeling back these pieces of tin that make up this frame. Now, I don't know who put this picture in the frame. I don't know any of that. But obviously it's been kept in the family. Okay, so this is that piece of cardboard that came off pretty easily, and actually the picture itself came off pretty easily as well. Now again, it's got thickness to it. It's not paper. But whether this is a tintype or there's another type of early photography, and I think it's like daguerreotype or something like that. I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research to find out what kind of picture this is and what the timeline is. But it definitely is of a young man. Looks like he's sitting in some sort of formal attire. But it looks like a portrait done prior to him going into the Civil War. That's amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna put that back in here. Goes in that way. This goes on top. And again, I'm just gonna fold this tin type material back over it. I don't want to clean the glass right now, but it's just amazing to me. Go ahead and put the ring back on it. I guess it probably went this way. Yeah, went that way. Put the ring back on it, and so everything is back the way it was. All right, I'm gonna go do some research on Peter, on his military service, where he is in the family tree, and a little bit of photography. And I'll be right back. Now, I'm pretty sure that we've talked about the Staats family before, but if we haven't, here's a little bit of what I know about them. First of all, it is my maternal grandfather's family. So here is Liam as the home person, me, my mother, and then we go to my maternal grandfather, who is Harold Staats Cook. So he gets that middle name from his mother's maiden name. So she is Geneva May Staats. And again, we're going to talk much more about Geneva May Staats because she wrote down everything. I have so many journals and diaries of hers that I need to dig into. But if we look at Geneva, or Eva's father, is Charles Welsh Staat, and then Oliver P. Staats. Now, I think the very first episode of For the Boys, we had that receipt book, which was Oliver P. Staats's. I'm pretty sure that that's the case. And then we go to David Staats. Now, our guy, Peter Staats, is a son of David Staats. Now, I want to make sure that I'm going back and doing this correctly, because from you guys, let me go back here. From you guys, okay, so Liam, here's you, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, 3 times great-grandparents, 4 times great-grandparents. And so Peter is actually Oliver's brother. And so we are direct line through Oliver, not through Peter. But if this is your 4 times great-grandfather, then Peter Staats is your 4-time great-grand-uncle. All right? So I'm going to go look at David Staats here, again, just to get the information on Peter. So David Staats came from Maryland to Indiana in the early 1800s with his family here. And so he had 8 children. We are descended through Oliver P. Staats, and we've talked about him so much. But, you know, of the 8 children, not many of them made it to adulthood. So Alpheus did, but Rona died when she was, 14? Peter died, we know he died young in the war. John F. Staats died when he was about 12. Looks like Rebecca lived to adulthood. Garrett did not. And I'm not exactly sure about Angeline. I need to finish that up. But in terms of his life, in terms of the life of Peter Staats, he was born on February 12th, 1834 in Preble County, Ohio. Now, Preble County, Ohio is one of those counties, I think I've pointed it out, that's just across the border from Richmond, Indiana. Preble County is very close to where Uncle Ron and Aunt Diane live. I actually spent a week, a number of summers ago, in Preble County doing some research on this very family. So it's very close to Indiana. So they just had to cross the border. I bet when Indiana became a state, which I don't really know off the top of my head, but I know that land opened up and a lot of people came from the east, including Ohio, into Indiana. So he was born February 12, 1834. We know he died on June 12, 1862. He is buried in a cemetery called Doty Cemetery, and I'll show you a little bit about that as well. So we find him in the 1850 census, which, by the way, is the first census that you find everybody named, including women and children. I think Staats is not spelled correctly in this one. Let's see if we can find it. Where are you? Oops. Oh, look up here. There's a Doty. And Peter is buried in the Doty Cemetery. So lots of times family cemeteries allowed their neighbors to be in there. And so I think that's kind of what happened. Here we are, where the Staats is. It's enumerated as Staats, S-T-O-T-T-S, but this is definitely them. We've got Alpheus here, we've got Peter, we've got Rebecca, we've got Angeline. So, even here, there's only 4 children that are alive. Peter Staats is 16 at this time. At that time, he is born in Ohio. That's what this is called. His father was born in Maryland, we can see here. Okay, looks like maybe in Virginia, the mom was born. Looks like Ohio and then Indiana. So you can see that they're heading from the East Coast more into the middle of the country. Okay, as we go back, we know that he's in the 1860 census as well, but shortly thereafter, he registers for the draft, essentially, for the Civil War. Now, I just want to take a look here because I don't think they have the actual record. No, they don't. But I want you to take a look at this because in this Civil War soldiers record and profiles, 1861 to 1865. Now, that seems like a very professional or very formal kind of document, and I think it is. But as we look in, he enlisted on May 15th, 1861 as a sergeant. Looks like he mustered in that same day. And he is in the 12th Infantry Company B. Then he's mustered out on May 19th, 1862 in Washington, D.C. Of course, he was fighting for the Union since he was in Indiana. Unfortunately, there seems to be a little bit of conflict in what unit or what company, what regiment he fought in, because there is another document which says that he was in a different one. And so I'm going to take just a quick break and then I'll come back to that document and show you what I mean. Here's one of those documents I was talking about that adds a bit of confusion. Now, in the U.S. Civil War document that we just looked at, it said that Peter Staats was enlisted into the 12th Infantry in the B Company. In this History of Hancock County, Indiana, which is a book, and usually counties have history books like this that detail people and land and businesses and schools and everything in the foundational years of the coming together of the counties. But anyway, here it says that Peter Staats, who is definitely our guy, was actually commissioned into the 11th Infantry in D Company, the 11th Regiment, I should say, and D Company. He actually went in with his cousin, John W. Staats, who is the son of his uncle, Peter Staats. So Peter C. Staats, who's the guy in our picture, has an uncle, also named Peter, and the older Peter's son, John W., they actually entered together, and it looks like they were also mustered out together. So the conflict is, did they go into the 12th Regiment and B Company, or did they go into the 11th Regiment and D Company? Now, I haven't done a tremendous amount of research on what their what both of these regiments and their companies did during the war. And that's, there's always more research to be done. But I just know that there's a little bit more research to do, because when I just did a quick, online, here's a Wikipedia, to what the 12th Indiana Infantry Regiment did in Civil War, we can see that, the unit formed in 1862, but then it says for the unit formed in 1861, I need to see something different. Maybe I can go back to that and see what this is all about. Because the 12th Indiana Infantry was organized at Indianapolis, Indiana, May 11th, 1861, and mustered in for 1 year's service. It was transferred to U.S. service on July 18th, 1861. So that gives us a little bit more information that they went into one regiment and company, and it looks like transferred to another. And then gives a little bit more detail here. The regiment was attached to Abercrombie's Brigade, Banks Department of the Shenandoah to October 1861. Abercrombie's Brigade, Banks Division, Army of the Potomac to March 1862. 2nd Brigade, Williams 1st Division, Banks vs. Corps to April 1862, and the Department of the Shenandoah to May 1862. So actually this gives a little bit more information. And I guess there were 2 different places where the units were formed, and so this is the one that we're talking about. So detailed service, left Indiana for Baltimore, moved to Sandy Hook, Maryland, went to Harper's Ferry, Williamsport, Sharpsburg. They advanced on Winchester, skirmished at Stevenson Station near Winchester, March 11th, operations of the Shenandoah Valley until April, duty at Warrenton Junction, Virginia, April 3rd through the May 5th, reconnaissance to Rappahannock River and skirmish at Rappahannock Crossing, April 18th, march to Washington, D.C., May 5th, and that's where they were mustered out. So somewhere, somehow though, our guy gets hurt. And I don't know if this is... Okay, so this is what... I don't think that that's what we want here. So somehow our guy gets hurt. And, we know that he gets mustered out in Washington, D.C., so that makes sense, on May 19th, 1862, and so does his cousin. I'm not exactly sure what he died of or where he got hurt. That needs to be some more research as well, but somehow he made it back. I don't know if he made it back alive or dead. That's the thing. Did he die in Washington, or did he make it back to Indiana and then die? Because supposedly in April 1862, he dies. So that's before actually they were mustered out. So he definitely was killed before his end of service. So in April, if we go back to this detailed service, it looks like he could have, anything kind of in here. I've heard of the Stevenson Station before, but, the Shenandoah Valley, there just needs to be some more information. Warrenton Junction, April 3rd to May 5th, maybe somewhere in there. But anyway, he died, but made it back to Indiana because he is buried, let's see, I do have some information, in this Doty Cemetery, which is way back in the woods in Hancock County. It's close to Madison County, Indiana. But as we look here, talk about the Doty family and how they started the family cemetery. But then you can look here, it says, once a family graveyard was started, it was traditional for its services to be offered to the neighboring community of farming settlers. Such is the case here. In addition to the Civil War Veterans Government Stone for John Doty Jr., below left, here, is the broken traditional stone below right for Sergeant Peter C. Staats, who died during the war. Anyway, so we've got quite a bit of information, but I just need to put it all together, try to figure out where this unit, this regiment, and this company fought, and to try to see if there are any records for him actually being injured and killed in action. And that will certainly be a follow-up to this story. Well, guys, this little picture and this ring certainly do bring up a lot of questions about our ancestor, Peter Staats. I don't really know what happened to him in the war. It's nothing like finding out information while I'm filming, but it was good for me to click on that one link that I hadn't seen before, and it took me to more precise information about what his regiment and company was doing, and the timeline made more sense from what I knew about him. But the fact that he took a picture, or had a picture made, probably for his family in case something that did happen, something did happen to him in the war, I think is just incredible. And the fact that this ring that he made while he was in the army, if he died, that means it was probably still on him when he died and when he was brought back to Indiana. And my guess is that his cousin probably had something to do with getting his body, Peter's body, back to Indiana and back to his family so he could be buried in that Doty cemetery. But something that is really interesting to me, and it's kind of an umbrella to all of this, is that the Staats family was Quaker. And I've done a lot of research on this particular family and Quakerism. I did a big report and followed this family. And Quakers don't usually take up arms. It's actually against their religion, against their beliefs, to handle guns. And for him, for Peter to go into the army, to fight, that was a huge deal in this family. So you just kind of wonder, back in 1861, when he was born in 34, so at 16, 17 years old, so he's a young man. Am I doing my math there right? No, 60s. So 34, so 26, 27 years old, okay? He's doing a huge monumental thing, not only fighting for our country, but also kind of going against his beliefs in order to fight for our country. And of course, he made the ultimate sacrifice. This is definitely a story that I'm going to follow up on. I need to find more records about the Civil War and about what this regiment and company did, because I think Peter deserves that. Peter deserves for his story to be told. He died a young man, and so Matt, think about how old you are now. That's how old he was, and maybe try to get to Doty Cemetery sometime, because I think that would be pretty cool as well. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed this. It's a little bit rambling, I understand, but as I do these For the Boys episodes, I just want you to know what we have and the significance of it. And this is obviously something that we're going to keep. It's so old, but it is a tangible piece of our past. And to say that we can see the face of our Civil War ancestor is something that a lot of people can't do. So I'm excited for you, I'm excited for me, and for all future generations to be able to take a look at this and treasure this and know that our ancestors did some pretty amazing things and sacrificed themselves for a great cause. All right, guys, I can't wait to see you in just a few days. You know how much Dad and I love you so much, and we'll talk to you later.